The customs formalities as a result of Brexit are causing problems for smaller companies in particular. Almost a quarter of the companies surveyed for a study have already stopped exporting to the EU. The ongoing trade problems after Brexit continue to bother small exporters in the UK. And as I said, according to a survey, almost every fourth company, it was 23%, has stopped its exports to the European Union, as the industry association Federation of Small Businesses, the FSB, announced on Monday. 4% would have already completely given up their EU business. 10% would consider doing so. Some exporters were planning to establish a presence in one of the EU countries or had already done so. Every 10th company is considering building storage capacity outside the UK. 3 months after the final Brexit, exporters would continue to have problems with incredibly demanding, unusual paperwork, said FSB boss Mike Cherry. What should be teething troubles now threatens to become permanent systemic problems. Larger companies would have the necessary resources, but smaller traders would have to consider whether exports are worth the effort. And one thing, because there's always a lot of rumors going on about this. Exporting is not something that small and medium-sized companies do that often, except within the internal market. And all the companies that started doing this, most of them were never used to the time before the internal market or have ever sent something to other countries that are not in the internal market. And so everything seems to be new for them. I'm a bit surprised about this association. They really should know what it means to deal with the outside of the internal market. And the larger companies, of course, are all prepared for this. They already trade with third countries all the time. But now, kind of everyone is a third country for the UK. That wasn't the case before. And all those small and medium-sized companies that were depending on the trade with the EU have never done this before as a third country. And so nothing of this is new. A lot of this, what's bothering them now, is standard WTO rules. Just for all of those who were always saying we need a WTO Brexit. What you're complaining about now is the part WTO we have now. Of course, there are a few special rules from the EU to protect the single market, but the majority of everything the people are complaining about at the moment is not the EU. It's the standard WTO rules. And in either case, the EU rules and the WTO rules, Britain was involved making them. And so nobody should be surprised now that last of all the British government or associations like this, they really are supposed to be informed what all this means. And they know this for 5 years now that's going to happen. And so I just want to get that myth out of the way. There's not a single new rule here. The rules are old. They just, from January 1st, also apply to the UK. That's the difference. But in the beginning, they talked about teething troubles. Now they are talking about new rules. It is not new rules. They are just new in the case that they are now only being used against the UK. And with against, I don't mean it in the punishing way before you get started again. So, the UK had also left the EU internal market and the customs union. And all this happened on January 1st, and since then the rules apply. And despite a commercial contract, customs duties and the preparation of necessary documents have been causing delays in some cases since then. For a good third of the companies, 36% of the importers or exporters, the delay lasted more than 2 weeks, according to the survey. 3 months after the end of the Brexit transitional rules, British freight forwarders and fishermen are also struggling with the consequences. They complain about mountains of paper, additional costs, and the EU as the most difficult market in the world. The point is they never really dealt with another market. It's a quiet morning in the Eyemouth fishing harbour, for example. The storm over Scotland has withdrawn, but the swell is still too strong for the crustacean fishermen to go out. Ivan is sitting on the quay mending his nets. Ivan wanted Brexit. Now he has to pay for it. It has become harder to export the goods. This is a problem for the freight forwarders. It doesn't make much difference to us, but the prices are much lower because there are these difficulties with exporting, he says. Yeah, and how narrow-minded is that? And narrow-minded. The whole trouble is the trouble of the freight forwarders, not my trouble. I want to catch my fish and sell it for the same price. How they do it, I don't care. And that's exactly the mindset why we are where we are now. Another example is David, who has to assemble a new net on his boat. And he confirms this. He currently only earns half of what he got for his catch in January and February 2020. However, this is not only due to Brexit, but also to the low demand due to the corona-related lockdown in Europe. Whatever fish and seafood the fishermen land in Eyemouth and other Scottish coastal towns, the shipping company D.R. Collin and Son are taken. James Cook is the managing director of the freight forwarding company. He makes no secret of how frustrated he is. Europe has now become the toughest market in the world for exporting fish or crustacean products, says Cook. And I have to emphasize there again. He should tell me any other market where he brought that stuff not frozen, where he brought fresh fish. He didn't bring fresh fish to China or Japan. So he, of course, is the toughest market now for them because they never had the experience with dealing with third countries. They just have not sold their fish fresh. They sold the fish frozen. It's easier to sell frozen fish to the EU as it is with Japan. If you sell frozen fish, it's easier. But you want to sell fresh fish to the EU. And that explains the rest he said. He said, we can export to China, America, more or less anywhere, but Europe is now the most difficult and complicated and bureaucratic market. That seems crazy, but that's the situation. Here, but he doesn't sell the fish fresh to China. He should show me how he's doing that. So it's frozen. And that's what I really think is always funny about this when people talk about this. They are comparing apples and oranges, and then suddenly the EU is the bad guy. But that's the mindset at the moment. Show me another country where they were selling fresh fish to, that didn't have deals with the EU to make this possible anyway. That's another point, by the way, with all the Brexiteers that are claiming they now got so many great new deals. First of all, almost everything there was copy and paste. And it's just 10% of the deals you lost on December 31st. On December 31st, the UK lost 700 deals. And now they have 10% of that. So it's not the bright, new, shining success they always want to sell. And when I'm talking about Brexiteers, I mean Brexiteers. I don't mean Leave voters. Because someone said when you say something about Brexiteers, you are insulting 17 million people. No. Brexiteers and Leave voters, all Brexiteers, I guess, are Leave voters, but not all Leave voters are Brexiteers. And I know how to differentiate things, what many Brexiteers can't do in the comments under my videos, as I can see that. Well, let's continue with D.R. Collin and Son. They started the year with a loss of around 2.4 million, for which the company does not receive any compensation from the state. In the first 3 weeks, they couldn't export anything to the European continent because they always didn't meet some of the new regulations. Once again, that's what Cook says, but it's not new regulations. The shipping company now employs the 14th customs broker. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. It has shifted the focus of our business, said Cook. Now we have to do the paperwork first. For 7 or 8 employees, it has the highest priority just so our vehicles can drive off. There are also quite a few costs associated with that. That is about 500 to 600 euros additional costs per load just for the paperwork. Yeah, and that's just welcome to not being a member anymore. That happens when you leave the club. And It is possible in some clubs. You can leave the club, not pay your annual fees, but then you have to pay the one-time fees if you want to use anything from the club. And that's a little bit to compare there. And he continues, even in the digital age, most of this is actually done on paper. Another fact that frustrates James Cook. He now has to give his drivers a folder with them for the tours so that they have the necessary documents on board. As Mark, spelled like me by the way, who drives tours to France for the forwarding company, confirms. But at least with the currently low transport volume, overnight delivery works again, at least for those seafood that have to be exported alive. They say, when we use the Eurotunnel, we are on the road for one night, says the driver. We leave here at 5 p.m. and are in France in the early hours of the morning. And once again, alive food. You don't deliver that to China or Japan or America. So, apples and oranges again. And so you really have to look on the details when the people are discussing and commenting. And just about commenting, one more small thing, because of all the complaints from the people who know what they do. I stated several times before, when people are trying to spam the newest Brexiteer headline over and over in my comments, I'll delete that. They have nothing of substance to say. They are not contributing to the discussion. They are just spreading the same current headline again. It was at the time with the teething troubles. It was at the time with AstraZeneca. Now it's new rules or it's Novavax. That's all smokescreens. And I just kick it out because it's of no substance. And you are just picked it up from the Express and are spreading this for 1 week. Then there's another BS headline again, and you will spread that for 1 week. And I am informed. I know what it is, what you post there. And so it's gone within seconds. And for those reasonable ones, if you want to be informed and not just be spammed with some propaganda headlines, of course, my channel is not unbiased. No channel on this planet is unbiased. No news agency is unbiased. Everyone has his own values, and nobody is 100% objective. Of course, I know that. And I'm pro-European. I'm pro-IndieRef too. But the people know where I'm standing and that I'm still trying to present facts. I'm still trying to show you the full picture. That's why I even talk positively about parts of what the UK government is using as a propaganda thing. The success with the vaccination is used completely as a propaganda machine. But I do comment positively on the positive parts of that. And I'm trying to do the same with the EU. Where they mess up, I say this. Where they do good things, I say this. And that's what I'm trying to do all the time. And of course, I am not unbiased. And of course, Phil brought it to the point with the name of his channel, by the way. And it is something reasonable people admit. The problem are those people that never admit that they are biased or even extremely biased or a propaganda machine. They are the problem. But if you're aware of that and admitting this, the people always know where they stand with you. And that's what some of us, reasonable people, try to do on YouTube. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.